So it's rare that we get to see our fellow teachers in their classrooms because we're always in our classroom. But do you ever wonder, how do teachers manage student behavior in their classroom? So we know there's different kinds of management styles, and then we all have our own personalities. So we're going to talk about managing student behavior while keeping the student's dignity in mind. Well, hello and aloha. I am Fleur, the face behind Aloha Monday Teaching, where I help fellow middle school science teachers and myself be more intentional, prepared, and refreshed for Monday and any day. That way, we're doing the best for our students and we feel our best. So, today we're talking all about managing behavior in our classrooms and how we can do that. So let's go ahead and get started. This is based on this blog post, and anything that I mentioned today will be linked in the description below so that you can check it out. So we're going to go over these ideas today. Examples of behaviors that we see in our classroom, some possible causes of behaviors, some management strategies, talking to students about their behavior, and talking to parents about their child's behavior. And the whole idea here is to get an understanding of our kids that we have in our classrooms and how to keep their dignity intact. Because, I mean, we care about our students and we want them to be the best that they can be and take charge and take control of their behavior. So that's what we're going to go over today. All right, so some examples of behaviors that you likely see in your classroom are, well, let's go over the minor behaviors first. So this one we definitely see in our classes, talking. And if you haven't watched the talkative class video, I have that link below too. So there's talking, students might be off task, some daydream, work completion is not happening, wandering around the room, and there's a whole lot more of these minor behaviors. Some bigger behaviors that we may not see as often, but we do see include defiance, talking back, arguing, whether it's with you or with another student, inappropriate behaviors or comments. I think that's pretty typical in middle school, or fighting, that aggression, that kind of thing. So while those don't always happen, they can happen in our middle school science classrooms. So those are just some examples of behaviors. I have a longer list in the blog post, and I'm sure you have your own list that you've experienced in your own teaching career. So let's talk about what are some possible causes of behaviors. And just thinking of these will help us be more proactive when it comes to managing these behaviors with our kids. So some possible causes, now this can change. This could be something that's like, okay, this is why this child behaves this way, or this is why this child is behaving this way today, because it could change. So lack of sleep. Middle schoolers definitely need a lot of sleep, and some of them are up playing video games all night or on their phones or whatever their thing is, but they're not getting enough sleep. Trauma. They might just be seeking attention. They're doing those attention-seeking behaviors. We probably saw a lot of that after COVID when we all came back to school. They might have an emotional or a learning disability, which is causing some of the behaviors like the off task or the defiance or something. Home life, maybe something's going on at home, whether it's when they were young and it's still affecting them, or something that just changed in their home. So that's something to consider when it comes to their behaviors. They might just be bored. They're bored in class. That happens. They get bored. Another cause could be that they're not feeling accepted or respected by their peers or even by their teacher. And that's something that we can control. If it is something that, if they're not feeling accepted by us, we can fix that. Okay. So, and we can also help with the peers by building that classroom community. So these are all possible causes of why students behave the way that they do in your classroom. And understanding those will help us manage it. So just remember that every student has a story, they have their own personality and behaviors. We need to consider these so we know how to be proactive and how to address the behavior with the student and the parent or guardian. All right, so let's go over some ways to manage student behavior. So if you think about the brain, this is a good way to calm down when your student is getting reactive. So the amygdala in the brain, it's just two little almond shape. It's a little structure here in your brain, and it reacts to stress and threat. So when it thinks that something is a threat or something is stressful, their amygdala is going to be like on high alert. It'll be hijacked. That's the term they use in the book Culturally Responsive Teaching about the brain. So when their amygdala is hijacked, they go into fight, flight, or freeze. And that's when you see that reaction. So things that can cause it can seem so small to us, but remember, we've already been through all of this, and most of us know how to calm down. We know how to handle stressful situations for the most part. Our middle schoolers don't. Their brains are still developing. They don't, and their amygdala reacts. I mean, it is like in charge almost of their brain. So small things can cause it. To us, they're small. They could have a test coming up and their amygdala is like, boop, boop, threat. Their brain is meant to make them survive. But if they start feeling stressed out, it's like, they're not going to survive. That's what their brain is thinking. So they might have a test coming up and it makes them fight, flight, or freeze. A student looks their direction and laughs. They think the student is laughing at them, but they're not. Maybe they just looked and happened to look past them or something, so then they think it's a threat and their amygdala reacts. It could be something real, of course, but not real. I don't want to say those are not real, but I think you know what I mean. So we can help them calm down with breathing exercises. And I'll link a video below that I really like to use. This lady in Australia does the hand and she shows like how it's like this, and then it slowly opens up and calms down. Plus she has a cool accent. So I'll link that below. And I show my students that video to help them understand what's going on in their brain and helping them calm down. And that's one way to get them to manage their behavior too. So yeah, I highly recommend showing them that video. All right. So when your student is behaving in a certain way, and you need to talk to them. So let's go over how to talk to students. And I'll link a book below by Responsive Classroom that gives us great examples on things to say to students and that sort of thing. So first, let's go over what we should not do, because this is not going to help students manage their behavior. It's just going to cause more stress. It's not going to be good. Okay. Our middle schoolers want to be treated with respect, and they need us to be honest with them and all that. So here's what not to do. Do not humiliate your student, especially in front of the class, right? Don't do that to your kids because they won't trust you, and you want them to trust you so that you can work with them and work through whatever is going on with their behavior. Don't use sarcasm. Some kids are very literal. I know, like, they're older and they're sarcastic themselves. So yeah, there's, for fun, there's some ways, but when it comes to talking to them about their behavior or with certain students, you don't want to use sarcasm at all, because they won't understand and they won't trust. You want them to trust you. And don't use statements that can be perceived as threats or like empty threats. So one thing is, if you're going to tell a student like, Kate, you need to stop talking or you're going to go to detention, you have to be able to follow through. Okay. So make it if you're going to give them a consequence or tell them what their consequence is, make sure that it's something that you can follow through on, and say it in a way, we'll on the do this side. Don't say, oh my gosh, stop talking or you're going to go to detention. Like, don't not like that. Your tone really matters because that's just going to put the student more on high alert with their amygdala, and it's not going to be good. So don't do those things. Here's what you do when you're talking to your students, regardless of what the behavior is, okay? Speak calmly and professionally. So if you are getting frustrated yourself, do the amygdala, breathe, do your breathing exercises before you talk to the student. If you need time before you talk to the student, tell them, say, I am going to talk to you in 2 minutes. I need to calm down myself because I'm getting really frustrated. And then just leave it at that because you're being honest, right? And that's good modeling too, because it shows that we're still human. We still get frustrated and angry, but we're not going to flip out on them. So speak calmly and professionally to your student, privately about their behavior. So we talked about not humiliating them. So make sure you're speaking to them privately. You can talk to them in the hallway. You can kneel down at their desk, that kind of thing. Okay, be honest. Be honest. Now, remember, be honest, especially for our middle schoolers, but don't use other words that could be perceived as like a threat or like they think that they're the bad ones. Be honest, focus on the behavior, not on the kid. So not like you are being bad or whatever. No, your talking is disruptive. Okay, instead of like you are being disruptive. Your talking is disruptive. Then they know, okay, it's the talking, it's not me as a person. All right, so make sure you're, and that goes into be specific, direct, and clear. So focus on the behavior and you're being honest, okay? Don't beat around the bush. Sometimes when you talk and I'm talking in class and you're talking and it sounds like you're not being respectful, just be direct, be specific and clear. Your talking is disruptive. Your talking is disrupting our lesson. And then they know that it's the talking. Okay. And give students a chance to adjust their behavior before you give them any other consequence. Obviously, if it's like they're fighting and stuff, that's like immediate, you're out. Office, but if it's one of those minor behaviors, so that's what we're talking about here, minor behaviors, give them a chance to adjust their behavior. Can you fix this? Can you stop talking? Can you focus? Can you get your work done before the end of the class period? One more thing I want to mention too, when you're talking to students, if you haven't used or read Love and Logic yet, check that out because they've got some really great things for as teachers. And if you're a parent, this works with your children also at home. One of the things I like to do, well, there's two things. So I feel like I'm going off track here, but I think this is very important. So two things, when it comes to managing behavior in your classroom, you obviously need to have a relationship and trust built with your student. So to do that, let's say there's a kid that's just difficult, and they're challenging. You can do something so simple to build a relationship with them. And in Love and Logic, what they do is they just say, I notice. You choose 5 days, so one a day, and you notice something even small about this student. And it'll get that student to like, oh, okay. This teacher's noticing me. Oh, and they'll start to behave a little differently. So it's just something simple. I notice you have blue shoes on today. That's my favorite color. I noticed you put in so much effort into your work today. I noticed that you walked into the classroom. I noticed, that sort of thing. So try that with your challenging student, like pick one and do that for a week and see what happens with their behavior, with their trust in you and that kind of thing. Another thing that is really good to do when you are having to get students when you give them a chance to adjust their behavior, when you're talking to that student about their behavior, so you'll listen to them first. They tell you, okay, let me rewind. Rewind. All right. So you've got the student in the hallway to talk about their behavior because you're talking to them privately. You're speaking calmly and professionally. You're being honest, specific, direct, and clear. Before you start, say, hey, tell me why you think I brought you in the hallway. And then they'll tell you, well, because I was talking or whatever. Sometimes they fess up, sometimes they don't. And then you have to tell them. So let them give you a chance to tell you about what's going on. And then your turn. Yes, your talking was very disruptive and I couldn't go through my lesson. And then talk about it, why that's, not good, blah, 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 and give them a chance. So this is a love and logic thing. Give them two choices that you are willing to live with. So two choices. Number one. So let's say, so you can either come back to the class and focus, or if you need to leave the room, then you can leave the room or something like that. Two things you can live with. And that works in other ways too, which we can go over in a different video. All right. I feel like I went off track. Sorry. All right. So that's talking to students about their behavior. Usually when you give them a chance to adjust their behavior, they do most of the time. And remember, if they are doing one of the more major behaviors, like if they're talking back, arguing, those kinds of things, they may need to just leave the room immediately, or you can still go through these steps and give them a chance to adjust depending on what it is. Okay. If anyone else is in danger, like they're fighting, obviously that's gone. But if they're talking back to you, when you calm down, go talk to them and then give them a chance to fix it so that they can manage their behavior. Because that is really the goal of us with management, is to help students manage their own behavior. All right. So now you got to talk to the parent. So when you talk to parents, now I'm going to go over some things here because I think this is really important, to have parents and you on the same team, because you are both there for their child. Okay. And I know it's hard for some teachers and parents. So here's what I recommend doing. Okay. At the very beginning of the school year, and if it's too late for this, do it now, but you need to let parents know that you are a team. What I do at Meet the Teacher Night, like I mentioned my philosophy and all this stuff, and I tell the kids and the parents, I'm like, Kate, your parents and I are like this. We are BFFs now, because I want what's best for the child, and so do their parents. We have that important thing in common, and that's where you need to let them know that that's where you stand. Okay, it's all about the kid. And send regular communication home, whether it's like a weekly newsletter or something, so the parent hears from you in different ways. If you can, send out those positive emails too about kids. So those are things to build a trusting relationship with your parents. When you do those things, it makes talking about behavior, their child's behavior, makes it that much easier to talk to the parent, because they already trust you. They know that you want what's best for their child. They know that you care. So that is so important. When you do talk to the parent about their child's behavior, so I like to call for them. Like for most of the things, I'll email, but if it's something that I'd rather call, I'll send them. I'll not send them a phone call. I'll actually call them, because I want to talk. I want to talk to them about it, and then they can hear my tone, and they know that I want to help their kid and things like that. So just like with your students, when you're talking with parents, you need to be calm and professional. You need to be honest, and you need to be direct and clear. Okay. You want to focus on the behavior that the child did, not the child themselves, because you don't want the parent to get defensive. You want them to also stay calm and to hear what's going on, so that you both can work together on this. So you'll state while you're contacting them and explain what happened. And then ask if there's anything you can do to support their child at school, or if there's anything that you need to understand, like, is there anything causing this? I noticed a change in this child's behavior lately. Is there anything I need to know so I can help them? So parents are so responsive to that, because they know, okay, this teacher cares and they really want to do what's best for my child. They want them in the classroom. So you want the parent to know that. And then finally, you want to thank them for their support. I appreciate all of your support. Thank you. And they appreciate you too. Many parents do. So you want to, you got to have that trust with your parents, and you have to have that partnership. It is so important, and it just helps the child. Now, I know that there's, some parents who are way too busy or just not there, and it makes it hard. So that's when you're still direct, you still let them know you care, and then you just hope for the best. I mean, it's out of your control. You have control of your classroom, like what happens there. You don't have control of what happens at home. So just accept the fact you did your part. Hopefully the parent talks to the kid, they come back to school, if they keep doing it. So that's, there's other steps for that, but make sure you're letting the parent know. Now, if you're writing an email or something and you need to check your tone, make sure ask another teacher to read it before you send it. And you've probably already heard this and you probably already do this. So that is very good practice. You want to make sure there's nothing like emotional or accusatory in your message. You need just make sure you check your tone and that you're being direct and you're being honest and doing those things. Okay. So when you have the parents' support, you will most likely see some kind of change, whether it's temporary, it could be for the rest of the school year, but you will notice something that is changed in your student. Okay, we went over a lot of things today. We talked about types of behaviors that we see in our classroom. We see those minor behaviors daily. The major behaviors we may not see as often, but when we do, we usually have different steps for those. We talked about why students might be behaving in ways, like in certain ways. And some of it is something that's instilled in them, and others are just some kind of change that's taken place that's affecting them now. So those are things that we need to understand in order to help our students manage behavior. So we're managing their behavior by teaching them how to manage their behavior is basically what we're doing. So we talked about how to talk to our students about their behavior so that their dignity is kept intact. So they know that it's the behavior that needs to change, not them. They are good people. Their behavior is not, whatever it is. And then we talked about how to talk to parents about their child's behavior, and that we need to have that partnership with parents, that trust with them. They need to know that we care about their kid and that we do want the best for them. So when they know that we have their child's back, and we want to help them, the parent is usually 100% supportive, and they will help out when they can. So that's what we talked about today. So what are some new understandings that you have about managing students' behaviors, and how will you talk to students and parents about behavior? All right, so I hope that helps today with some things that might be challenging you in your classroom. And be sure to check out some other videos. Comment below if you want to talk about more stuff when it comes to behavior. Thank you.